The secret resource in Kubernetes is similar to config maps. Just like with config maps, you can use secrets to store key value pairs. You can then mount them into your containers either as files in a volume or use them as environment variables. The choice between using a config map or a secret is pretty straightforward. If the value you're storing contains sensitive information, things like keys, passwords, credentials, store it in a secret. Otherwise, store the values in a config map. The secret resource values are stored encrypted in the etcd. etcd is the key value store that's used by Kubernetes to store the objects and their state. There are three types of secret you can create. The first one is a generic one, and a generic secret can be created from a file, directory, or a literal value, just like we did with the config maps. The second secret type is a Docker registry secret, and this type of secret contains the secret username and password and the server name that's used to authenticate with the Docker registry. So you can either pass in the Docker config file, or you can manually specify the values that are needed to authenticate with the registry. So that's the server URL, the username, password, and the email. Finally, the last type is called TLS, and this is the secret that holds the public and private key pair. Now let's look at how we can create a generic secret using kubectl. So let's do kubectl create secret generic, and we'll just call it my secret. And from literal, we'll just say username equals admin, and from literal, we'll say password equals hello 123 exclamation mark. So this created the secret. We can use the describe command because this is just another Kubernetes resource. So we'll say kubectl describe secret my secret. There you go. Now, if you watched the previous video on config maps, you remember that you could actually see the key values. So if you would create a config map with these the exact same values, and then we would describe it, we would actually see what the values for the username and the values for the password were. Now, what Kubernetes does with the secrets, it actually stores the secret values as base64 encoded strings. So let's do this. Let's do kubectl. Let me just see secret. So we'll do kubectl get secret, and then we'll get the YAML representation of this resource by using -o and then specifying YAML. Now notice up here, under the data section, the password and the username, the values are actually, they're base64 encoded strings. So encoding the values like that allows you to store not just plain text, but also binary data. So for example, if we would try to create a secret through YAML, which you can do, you would have to use base64 encoded strings for all binary values. However, if you have any secrets that don't need to be base64 encoded, so any non-binary values, you could provide them in a plain text just using the string data field. So let's look at how we could create this through YAML. So we'll say my secret one.yaml, and we'll do API version is going to be v1, kind is going to be secret, metadata name my secret, say my secret one, and then namespace will be default. And then string data, this is where we can provide the actual value in a plain text because it doesn't have to be base64 encoded. However, anything that goes under data, and this could be either a binary value or a non-binary value, it needs to be base64 encoded. So I'm just going to copy the same base64 encoded string that we had there. So if we save this, and let's say kubectl apply my secret one.yaml. Oh, I mistyped the namespace name. Let's do it again. Okay, so now the secret is created. So let's look at the secret. My secret one, the YAML representation of it. You'll notice that the password, both the username and the password are base 64 encoded, even though we provided the username as a plain text string. So just want to check. I think I mistyped I didn't pick the right one. Oops. We need to do echo because we got the same, the two. Yeah, okay. So I made a mistake. I copied the username value as a password. But in any case, what I was trying to show you is that even though we provided the string data as plain text, it still got base 64 encoded. Now, just like with config maps, pods can consume secrets through environment variables and volumes as well. So when you use the secret in a pod, the values will actually be stored as plain text. So you don't have to do base 64 decoding to decode those values and get the actual values from within your containers. So let's see how we can consume the values from a secret through a pod and consume them as environment variables. So let's call this file a secret pod. And then under env, we will just set let me just see what we had. So we had the username, right? So we'll say username, and the value is going to be coming from. So this is the same key that we used for the config maps. But this time we're going to use secret key ref. And let me just double check the name of the secret. So we're going to use my secret. So that's going to be the name of the secret where the value is going to be coming from. And the key will be username. Lowercase username. And the second environment variable will be the password environment variable. And this is the same. And the key is going to be password. So let's save this. And let's deploy it. kubectl apply -f secret pod.yaml. So we created the secret pod, and it's still being created, and now it's running. So let's run the env command inside this pod, and let's look at the value. So look at here. So we have the username is set to admin and password is set to hello123 exclamation mark, just like we set it in the secret. So this is exactly the same, works the same principle as the config maps. Now, even though you can use secrets as environment variables, it is not really recommended, as it's much easier to expose them unintentionally when you have them as environment variables. So let's say as part of your application, you might be writing all environment variables to a log file, or you might be outputting the environment variables in case your application crashes and so on. And that might be, those log files might be used later on somewhere, they might be stored somewhere, which might inadvertently expose your secrets. Now, just to be safe, you should always use volumes to mount your secrets into the pods instead of using the environment variables. So let's see how we can mount these same two values and mount them mount them through the volume instead of using them or mounting them as environment variables. So just like before, we're going to name the value, and let's just call it that's our auth secret, and then we're going to reference the secret by the secret name, similarly like we did before with the config maps. And then inside of the container, we then have to mount this volume. We're going to name, and this is the mount secret, the auth secret, and then mount path. Let's just mount it under var secrets, and make it read only. And I'll remove these two. And let's just see if we'll get lucky with deleting the pod this time. Delete pod, secret pod. See how long it's going to take. Yeah, it's going to take a while. So let's do -1 here and cancel out. And we'll say kubectl apply secret pod.yaml. So that's created a secret pod 1. So let's just execute inside this secret pod and get a shell inside it. There you go. So we mounted the secrets under var / secrets. And you'll notice there's a password file and there's the username file. And if we would list the look at the contents of this file, you'll notice it's the actual username and the actual password. And then in your application, you would have to pretty much just read those values from the files instead.